Scientists have been delighted by the chance discovery of a rare deep-sea creature lurking at the bottom of the South Atlantic. A young colossal squid was observed during a live stream of a diving expedition.
The camera descends 2,000 feet into the freezing black water. The operators are just scanning for jellyfish or rocks. Suddenly, a shadow drifts into the frame. The chat room goes silent. The scientists gasp. It is the colossal squid, the rarest predator on Earth. But it's not fighting a sperm whale, it's not jetting away in a cloud of ink, it is hovering, it's watching. This single moment caught on camera in March 2025 has rewritten a century of biology. But here's the catch. What happens next is even more confusing. The phantom in the static. It started like any other shift in the middle of the freezing Southern Ocean. A massive research vessel was bobbing on the surface of the waves, thousands of miles from civilization near the remote islands that border the Antarctic. Down below, nearly 2,000 feet deep, a remote-operated vehicle, or ROV, was doing the heavy lifting. The pilots and researchers were over a month into a grueling mission, scanning the seafloor for anything new. Usually you see some mud, maybe a sponge, or the occasional fish darting away from the lights. The team was tired, the coffee was likely stale, and the expectation for a groundbreaking discovery was low at that exact moment. They were just trying to map the bottom of the world. But on March 9, 2025, the screens in the control room showed something that made everyone freeze. An alert viewer watching the live stream online typed it out first. Something pale. Something bell-shaped. It wasn't a rock, and it definitely wasn't a fish. As the robot turned its high-definition 4,000-pixel cameras, the shape drifted into focus. It was translucent, almost like a ghost, hanging suspended in the crushing darkness. It had large, beautiful eyes and short arms. The experts on board realized what they were looking at, but it didn't make sense. It was a colossal squid. But it wasn't attacking, it wasn't fleeing, it was just floating. This was the moment marine biologists had been dreaming about for 100 years. But here is the catch. The animal wasn't the size of a school bus. It was a juvenile, maybe 12 inches long. And it didn't look like a monster, it looked like a delicate glass sculpture. For decades, we have been told stories about the kraken, a beast that fights whales and crushes submarines. We grew up seeing artistic renderings of red, angry beasts wrapping their tentacles around ships. Yet here was the most feared invertebrate on the planet, acting as calm as a cucumber. The footage went viral instantly. People on social media were freaking out, calling it the baby kraken. But for the experts, this tiny, calm creature was a massive problem for the history books. You have to understand, finding this animal alive is harder than finding a needle in a haystack. It is like finding a needle in a haystack that covers 70% of the planet and is pitch black. The water down there is hovering just above freezing, between 33 and 39 degrees Fahrenheit. The pressure is enough to crush a car into a soda can. And yet, this little squid was just hanging out, seemingly unbothered by the giant robot humming next to it. It defies logic. Why didn't it run? Why didn't it ink? Why didn't it show any of the aggression we associate with top predators? We are going to dig into the biology of this, but first we have to look at why we were so scared of them in the first place. The crazy part is, up until this moment, almost everything we knew about these creatures came from dead bodies, and that painted a very different, very violent picture. We built an entire mythology around a creature based solely on corpses and scars. It is like trying to understand human behavior by only looking at a crime scene. This video footage was the first time we saw the suspect walking free, and it looked nothing like the villain we created. This discovery forces us to ask a difficult question. If we got the personality of the colossal squid so wrong, what else are we wrong about down there? The ocean is deep, dark, and full of secrets, and this little ghost is just the tip of the iceberg. We have to reconsider every assumption we have ever made about the creatures of the deep. If the monster is actually a peaceful drifter, then what is the real monster? Is it the environment itself, or is there something else lurking in the shadows that we haven't seen yet? To really grasp the magnitude of this, you have to put yourself in that control room. Imagine the silence. Imagine looking at a screen and seeing a creature that is basically a legend, a myth brought to life. But it is just hovering there, staring back at you. It is eerie. It is unsettling, and it changes everything. A century of nightmares and beaks. To understand why this calm footage was such a shock, we have to go back to 1925. That was the year the colossal squid was discovered, but not in the way you might think. We didn't catch one in a net. We didn't see one swimming. Scientists found two massive tentacles inside the stomach of a sperm whale. That was it. That was our introduction to the species. From day one, the colossal squid was defined by being eaten or by fighting back. Imagine if the only thing aliens knew about humans was that we sometimes got eaten by lions. They would think we were pretty intense, right? Over the next century, the legend grew. We found more pieces. We found beaks, the hard-mouth parts of the squid that were the biggest of any squid on Earth. These beaks are razor-sharp and massive, capable of shearing through flesh and bone. They look like the beak of a parrot, but the size of your hand and made of material harder than some metals. Then came the scars. Sperm whales would show up with deep, circular scratch marks and long slices on their skin. Biologists realized these were battle wounds. The colossal squid has these rotating hooks on its tentacles. Unlike the giant squid, which just has suction cups with little teeth, the colossal squid is armed with actual swiveling meat hooks. Let's pause on the hooks for a second because this is nightmare fuel. The tentacles are lined with these sharp cat-like claws that can rotate 360 degrees. When the squid latches onto something, it doesn't just stick, it digs in. If the prey tries to escape, the hooks twist, digging deeper. This is a weapon designed for maximum damage. It is a weapon designed for war. So naturally, we built a monster in our minds. We pictured an aggressive, high-speed hunter that would attack anything that moved. We assumed they were just like the giant squid, which we have seen attacking bait with incredible speed. We thought the colossal squid was just a bigger, badder, meaner version. When a few specimens were finally hauled up by fishing boats, usually as bycatch in the Antarctic toothfish industry, they were huge. The most famous one, caught in New Zealand in 2007, weighed over 1,000 pounds and was 33 feet long. It was a heavy, thick-bodied titan. The fishermen who pulled it up were stunned. It looked like something from a horror movie. Its eyes were the size of soccer balls. Its body was red and muscular, but seeing a dead squid on a boat deck is misleading. It is a pile of red mush. It doesn't tell you how the animal moves or acts. It is like looking at a flat tire and trying to guess how fast a Ferrari can go. We assumed they were fast, we assumed they were mean, we assumed they patrolled the depths like sharks looking for a fight. But what the robot saw in 2025 shattered that illusion. The juvenile wasn't red, it was transparent. It wasn't thrashing, it was drifting. And that brings us to the biggest revelation of the expedition. This animal isn't a fighter by choice, it is a master of energy efficiency. There is a famous story from the 1970s involving a U.S. Navy destroyer. The ship's sonar dome, which is covered in a rubbery coating, was found to be shredded. Embedded in the rubber were claws, massive claws. At the time, people speculated it was a giant squid attack. While it was likely a different species of large squid, incidents like this fueled the fire. We love the idea of a monster that fights warships. It makes the ocean feel dangerous and exciting. We want the kraken to be real because it makes the world feel magical. But the reality of the deep sea is often stranger than fiction. The monster isn't a mindless beast, it is a highly evolved survivor. The hooks aren't just for fighting whales, they are for grabbing slippery fish in the dark. The massive size isn't just for intimidation, it is a side effect of living in cold, rich waters. We projected our own fears onto this animal. We wanted a kraken, so we created one. Basically, we had the personality of this animal completely wrong for 100 years because we were only looking at the weapons, not the lifestyle. We looked at the knife in its pocket and assumed it was a monster when it might just be a chef. We looked at the scars on the whales and assumed the squid started the fight, when in reality, the squid was probably just trying to not get eaten. It is a classic case of blaming the victim just because the victim happens to be a giant, scary-looking squid. The ghost in the machine. So why was the baby squid so chill? Why didn't it freak out when a massive robot with bright lights pulled up next to it? The answer lies in the weird biology of the deep ocean. Down there, food is incredibly scarce. You can't just run around chasing things like a cheetah, you would starve to death in a week. The colossal squid has evolved a strategy that scientists call ambush predation. They don't hunt, they wait. They are basically floating landmines. One leading expert pointed out something crucial. The squid in the video has a very large, gelatinous body. It looks puffy. That is because its tissues are filled with an ammonium chloride solution. This fluid is lighter than seawater, which gives the squid neutral buoyancy. It doesn't have to swim to stay afloat, it can just hang there perfectly still without burning a single calorie. This explains the ghostly behavior. It's not being lazy, it's being smart. It is defying gravity using chemistry. Think about how brilliant that is. Most fish have to swim or use a gas bladder to stay afloat. This squid just exists. It is one with the water. This allows it to grow to massive sizes without needing massive muscles to hold itself up. It is like a hot air balloon floating in the sky. Big, impressive, but mostly just drifting with the wind. And then there are the eyes. Even on the juvenile, the eyes were huge. On an adult, they can be the size of a dinner plate. The biggest eyes in the animal kingdom. They aren't looking for sunlight, there isn't any. They are looking for bioluminescence. They are scanning the dark for the faint glow of a lanternfish or the silhouette of a predator. When the robot showed up, the squid likely didn't see it as a threat because it didn't move like a whale. It moved like a slow, drifting object. The squid might have been just as confused as the researchers were. But here's the detail that blew everyone away. The fin movement. In the video, you can see the squid's fins undulating gently. It creates this smooth, rippling motion that propels it forward without disturbing the water too much. This is stealth mode. If it used its jet propulsion, shooting water out of its siphon, it would be fast, but it would be loud and turbulent. By using its fins, it remains a ghost. It can glide up to prey without triggering the vibration sensors that most deep-sea fish have. This completely flips the script. We used to think of them as the T-Rex of the deep. But it turns out they are more like a Venus flytrap. They are patient, they are slow, and they are incredibly fragile. The juvenile in the video was so clear you could see its internal organs. It looked like it was made of glass. If you touched it, it might just fall apart. This fragility is a stark contrast to the heavy, scarred monsters we imagine battling whales. It reminds us that in the deep sea, being colossal doesn't mean being invincible. Think about the energy cost of living down there. It is freezing. There is no light. Every movement costs energy that you might not get back for days or weeks. If you swim fast, you burn fuel. If you burn fuel, you die. So the colossal squid evolved to do absolutely nothing until the exact right moment. It is the ultimate waiter. It waits and waits. And when something swims by, snap. Those hooks swivel, grab, and it's over. This leads us to a fascinating theory about their intelligence. Some researchers believe that cephalopods, squids, and octopuses are the closest thing to alien intelligence on Earth. They have massive brains. They solve problems. If this juvenile was watching the robot, was it learning? Was it analyzing the lights? The fact that it didn't attack or run might suggest a level of curiosity that we usually only see in mammals. It wasn't reacting on instinct alone, it was assessing the situation. It is possible that the squid knew exactly what it was doing. It knew that the robot wasn't a whale. Whales make specific sounds. They displace water in a specific way. The robot was something new, something weird. And in the animal kingdom, when you see something new, sometimes the best strategy is to just freeze and watch. The squid was gathering data just like the scientists were gathering data on it. It was a mutual study session in the dark. However, even with all this new info, there is still one massive question hanging in the air. If they are so slow and calm, how do they manage to stay hidden from us for so long? The needle in the abyssal haystack. You might be wondering, if we have submarines and advanced technology, why haven't we seen this before? It is a valid question. We have mapped the surface of Mars better than we have mapped our own ocean floor. The habitat of the colossal squid is the Southern Ocean, the ring of water surrounding Antarctica. This is hands down the roughest, most hostile ocean on the planet. The waves are huge, the winds are gale force, and the water is full of icebergs. Just getting a ship there is a logistical nightmare. The vessel used for this discovery is a beast of a ship, but even it has limits. To find a colossal squid, you have to drop a robot thousands of feet down. The deeper you go, the narrower your field of view becomes. The lights on the robot only illuminate a few dozen feet in front of you. Imagine trying to find a specific cat in a city the size of New York at night using only a flashlight while looking through a drinking straw. That is what deep-sea exploration is like. You can be 10 feet away from the discovery of the century and never know it because it is just outside your beam of light. And get this, the squid are probably avoiding us. Even though this juvenile was calm, adults might not be. They have incredibly sensitive detection systems. They can feel vibrations in the water from miles away. A submarine or an ROV is loud. It hums, it whirs, it pushes water. A colossal squid can likely hear us coming long before we see it. They simply drift away into the blackness. The only reason we saw this juvenile is probably because it was inexperienced. It hasn't learned to fear the mechanical hum of a robot yet, or perhaps its curiosity outweighed its fear. The rarity of this footage cannot be overstated. We have seen the giant squid a few times now. We have seen other rare deep-sea species. But the colossal? This was the white whale of marine biology. The fact that the team captured it in 4K resolution is a technological miracle. It confirms that these animals are out there living their lives in the void, completely indifferent to our existence. But let's dig deeper into the missing element. There are theories that the deep ocean is full of cryptic species, animals that are right in front of us but hidden by technology. The bright lights of an ROV might blind sensitive deep-sea eyes. The colossal squid has the biggest eyes on Earth, remember? Maybe our lights are so painful to them that they flee instantly. This juvenile might have been in a different stage of development where the light didn't bother it as much. Or maybe it was sick. We don't know. There is also the sheer scale of the environment. The bathypelagic zone, where these squid live, is the largest habitat on Earth. It is millions of cubic miles of black water. We have explored less than 5% of the ocean. When you run the numbers, it is statistically a miracle that we see anything at all. Every time we drop a camera, we are rolling the dice. Getting a double six with a colossal squid is a once-in-a-lifetime event. This brings up the concept of sampling bias. We only see the slow, the sick, or the stupid. The healthy, fast, intelligent adults might be watching us from just outside the ring of light, laughing at our clumsy robots. We assume we are the masters of the ocean, but down there we are the clumsy tourists stumbling around in the dark. We are loud, bright, and obvious. They are silent, invisible, and perfectly adapted. It is also worth noting that the ocean is not a flat plain. There are canyons, trenches, and mountains down there. The colossal squid could be hiding in underwater ravines where our robots can't easily navigate. They have the home field advantage. We are visiting their house and we are knocking on the front door, but they might be hanging out in the basement. But the discovery of a juvenile brings up a terrifying possibility about the future of this species, something that has experts worried about the clock ticking on these animals. The fragile titan. Seeing a baby colossal squid is cute, sure, but scientifically it is a bombshell. It means that the area around these remote islands is likely a nursery. There must be adult females nearby spawning thousands of eggs. We know almost nothing about their life cycle. Do they die after mating? How fast do they grow? If there are babies, there is a breeding population, and that population is living in one of the most rapidly changing environments on Earth. The Southern Ocean is warming. The Antarctic ice is melting. These squid are adapted to extreme cold. They need that frigid, oxygen-rich water to survive. Their entire metabolism is slowed down to match the temperature. If the water warms up, even by a couple of degrees, their metabolic rate shoots up. They would need more food, more oxygen, and more energy. But the deep sea is a food desert. If the ocean warms, these sluggish drifters might starve to death because they can't hunt fast enough to feed their faster metabolism. Experts emphasize that this footage rebrands the animal. It is no longer the movie monster. It is a biological marvel that is perfectly adapted to a specific stable world. The wow factor isn't that it is scary, it is that it exists at all. It survives pressures that would turn a human into a soup. It grows to 23 feet on a diet of deep-sea fish, and it does it all while floating silently in the dark. The viral reaction to the baby kraken showed that people are hungry for mystery. In a world where every inch of land is mapped by satellites, the deep ocean is the last frontier. This footage is a reminder that we share this planet with giants we barely know. We are sending rockets to space, but we have monsters. Gentle, glass monsters, swimming right here beneath the waves that we are only just meeting for the first time. Consider this. Deep sea mining is becoming a reality. Countries and companies are looking to dredge the ocean floor for rare earth metals. These are the same areas where deep-sea squids hunt and live. The sediment plumes from mining could choke the water, blinding the squid and eliminating their prey. We might be on the verge of wiping out a species we just barely started to understand. The colossal squid is an indicator species. If they start disappearing, it means the entire deep-sea ecosystem is collapsing. It turns out the scariest thing about the colossal squid isn't its beak or its hooks. It's the fact that it is so fragile, and we might be destroying its home before we even finish saying hello. The irony is painful. We spent a century fearing a monster that turns out to be a delicate ghost. And now that we know the truth, we might be the ones acting like monsters, destroying its world through negligence and greed. We need to protect these nurseries. We need to understand that the deep ocean isn't just a dumping ground or a resource mine, it is a complex living world. And the colossal squid is the ambassador for that world. If we lose the squid, we lose the mystery. And a world without mystery is a boring place to live. But beyond the sadness of conservation, there is a wilder side to this story. Because when you stare into the abyss and something stares back, your mind starts to go to some pretty crazy places. The wild theories and the great unknown. Now let's take off the scientist hat for a second and get into the really interesting stuff. The stuff that keeps people up at night. The internet went wild with this footage, and not just because it was cool. People started asking, what if? What if the colossal squid we know, the 23-foot ones, are just the runts? Think about it. We have never seen an old one. We have never seen one die of old age. We only see the ones that get eaten or caught. What if deep down in the trenches where no whale can dive and no robot can reach, there are ancient ones? Squid that are 50 feet long, 100 feet? Biological immortality is a thing in the ocean. Some jellyfish and sharks live for centuries. Could there be a grandfather kraken down there? It sounds like fiction, but in an environment we have barely explored, impossible is a strong word. Then there is the theory of intelligence. We know octopuses can use tools, recognize faces, and escape puzzles. The colossal squid has a massive brain to handle its complex eyes and tentacles. Some wild theories suggest that they might have a form of communication we can't perceive. Maybe they use bioluminescence, flashing lights on their skin, to talk in a visual language. If that is true, this juvenile wasn't just staring at the robot, it might have been trying to signal it. Who are you? What are you? And we, with our bright lights and loud motors, were just shouting gibberish back at it. And let's get really out there. People love to talk about aliens. The deep ocean is the closest thing to an alien planet we have. The conditions, high pressure, darkness, extreme cold, are similar to the moons of Jupiter or Saturn, like Europa. Some astrobiologists look at the colossal squid and say, this is what we should be looking for in space. If life can evolve into a 20-foot glass hunter on Earth, why not under the ice of Europa? Seeing this squid act so calmly makes the idea of alien life feel a lot less like science fiction and a lot more like biology. There is also the hollow Earth vibe, not literally hollow, but the idea of isolated pockets of life that have been cut off for millions of years. The Southern Ocean is isolated by a massive current. It acts like a wall. Evolution happens differently there. Could there be other species, cousins of the colossal squid, that are even stranger? Maybe predators that hunt the colossal squid? There is always a bigger fish, right? If the colossal squid is the ambush predator, what is the active hunter that chases it? We have no idea. Some viewers pointed out something unsettling. The squid looked artificial. It moves so smoothly, so mechanically. While it is definitely biological, it highlights how nature can produce designs that look engineered. It is perfect. Too perfect. It sparks that simulation theory feeling in people. Like, did the developers just drop a new mob into the game? It is funny to think about, but it shows how alien these creatures really are to our mammalian brains. And finally, the most grounding but wild theory: we are the aliens. To them, we are the invaders. We come down in metal bubbles, blasting light into a world that has known only darkness for millions of years. This juvenile squid was witnessing an alien invasion. Its calm reaction might have been shock. It was a first contact moment. And just like in the movies, the aliens, us, left without really understanding what they saw. We are so obsessed with finding magic in monsters that we sometimes miss the magic of reality. But there is a part of us that hopes the monsters are real. We want the ocean to be conquerable, but we also want it to be uncontrollable. We want to know that there is still something on this map that says, "Here be dragons." And thanks to this footage, we know the dragons are there. They are just quieter than we expected. So does this change how you see the monsters of the deep? Are they monsters or just misunderstood ghosts drifting in the dark? Let me know what you think in the comments. If you want to keep exploring the abyss with us, smash that like button and subscribe. Catch you in the deep.